sailor with the sea flaps.
Hey friends, here's something nobody knows about me, and I've not spoken about it before. You see, I can't rest when I'm at rest, and I don't know how other people do it. I find being still nearly impossible. It's as if my body craves constant motion or sensation. You'll rarely see me sitting up like other adults. Instead, I slouch, sprawl, or settle into seemingly strange stances. I pin one foot against the other, or against furniture legs. I'll sit on the edge of a chair, or against my legs, arms, or hands, a bit like I'm actually doing right now. I'll move, wiggling or jiggling, bouncing a leg, or massaging my feet together before I sleep. These movements, postures, and often deeper pressure helps to orientate me. Without them, I feel physically disordered, uncomfortable, unfocused, and chaotic. If you asked me a year ago, I would have denied being any different to anyone else. I mean, I can sit like a normal person. In social settings, I'll start with both feet together, lowering my body onto the chair or sofa, doing my best to stay parallel and not do anything to give away any signs of discomfort. I mean, I'm not physically disabled, so surely I should be able to do this. Imagine if you're sitting on a wooden church pew during a sombre funeral service. Hold that thought, we've actually got a church pew. So you're sitting down, making every effort to sit still, making no noise, and keeping your body quiet. I can do it for a short while because I'm not a 3-year-old child. And adults know that they can expect other adults to be able to sit still in a chair. Slowly I can feel an anxious tension, and I'll start to covertly squeeze my toes together in my shoes. Sometimes I press my knees or my calves together. If that fails to provide relief from the tension that's building up, as I force myself to sit still, I might press or rub my fingers together, usually one by one, or squeeze my wrists or my arms. These movements are known as stimming. Stimming is understood to help autistic people to regulate their emotions, sometimes in a sensory-seeking way, and sometimes in a calming one. To manage sensory overload, sometimes, or anxiety, or to calm intense emotions. When I was a child, my stims were much more obvious than they are today. There was a lot of jumping and hopping and spinning and flapping, but 4 decades later, unless I'm really comfortable around you, you'd have to look closely to notice how my stims had gone undercover, incognito even. It's also sensory seeking. Many stims are both sensory seeking and calming, but always regulating for me. My stimming is well documented, although I don't have any video evidence from my childhood. That's thanks in part to my age. I didn't get my first mobile phone until I was in college in the 90s, and even then it couldn't take pictures, yet alone record video. And let's be honest, even if it could, nobody would be taking video of a solitary, undiagnosed autistic teenager who is trying desperately hard to suppress these movements. Sometimes I don't know that I'm stimming. In fact, reading this script back to myself, I caught myself pinching the skin around my lips, and sometimes my neck, and I'm just not aware of it sometimes. But it helps me to focus, it helps me to concentrate. Sometimes I do it consciously too, and have done all my life. Since discovering that I was autistic, I've actually done it more. I have stimmed more since realising I was autistic, not less. And yes, I've had someone close to me tell me that I'm acting more autistic now. Somewhat upsetting, sure, but also probably true. Learning that I'm not built for standing, sitting, sleeping in conventionally motionless adult manner, and that I'm not a broken neurotypical adult, but a perfectly functional autistic one, I admit. I have been consciously regulating by stimming. At least now I have a label for a behaviour, for something that helps me to regulate, that I now do intentionally and not just by an accidental habit. One of the things I first did when I realised I was autistic was purchasing a weighted blanket. I find that deep pressure gives me a sense of security and grounding. This is proprioceptive. It's similar to the hug that I feel from the water pressure in the ocean on my scuba dives. I'm a clumsy person on land and often bump into and even break things, but in the ocean, with the constant enveloping pressure surrounding me, the viscousness of the water compared to air, my body just knows where it is in this 3D space. But back on land, I struggle in 2D space. There's something about the sensory input from the water that keeps me balanced. I'll explore this more in future videos. After all, if nothing else, it combines two of my special passions, my special interests. Physical pressure, to me, equals grounding, and grounding equals safety. When an autistic person feels understimulated, stimming behaviours can help. It's thought by adding necessary sensory input into their system, keeping their sensory levels balanced, for want of better wording. Engaging in predictable, repetitive behaviours can also help create a sense of routine and predictability in what otherwise might feel like a chaotic sensory world. This predictability itself can be soothing and comforting. What types, then, of sensory-seeking stims do we have? How many senses do we have? I'll give you 5 seconds to think and answer. If you answered the traditional 5 senses, touch, taste, smell, sight and hearing, you've actually missed the last 3. We have vestibular, the sense of balance and spatial orientation. Proprioception, that's the position of body parts relative to each other. It's to do with coordination and posture. And interoception, internal senses like hunger, thirst and internal pain. Each of these 8 senses can be used for stimming. 1. Touch, tactile. We could seek different textures, example, craving the sensation of specific textures. Pressure and squeezing, maybe enjoying tight hugs, burrowing under heavy blankets, or wearing compression clothing. The second is taste or gustatory. Chewing or licking non-food items, example, pencils, clothing, or other items to receive the oral sensory input. In fact, during a live stream, Catcher, the Auti artist, drew some art of me. In this art, I'm actually chewing my hoodie drawstrings. Preference for intense flavours. Seeking out strongly flavoured foods like sour sweets or candies or spicy snacks perhaps. Then we have visual, our sight. Seeking visual patterns, moving objects of light or colours. Looking into an aquarium is a great one for me. Drawing, colouring, crafting even. Smell, olfactory. Seeking out strong scents. Being drawn to and repeatedly smelling items with strong or distinctive odours. For example, perfumes, flowers, or even things like gasoline or marker pens. I actually really liked the smell of petrol, so gasoline as a kid. I don't know why. Using scented products, heavily scented soaps, lotions, or candles, for example. Sound, auditory. Listening to specific sounds, the type of music perhaps, something rhythmic, or sounds like fans or humming machinery are really common. And then there's also making sounds, so clicking pens, making sounds echolalia, we call it, so repeating sounds that you've heard, tapping objects. Vestibular, balance and movement. We could seek motion, we could spin, swing or rock. These activities help regulate the sense of balance and movement through space. High energy activities too, jumping, running or sports that involve a lot of movement. Proprioception, joint and muscle sense. We could crave impact or resistance, engaging in activities that involve pushing, pulling or lifting heavy objects. Some may prefer activities that provide resistance like tug of war or heavy gardening work maybe. The gym, perhaps. Stretching and compression, often seeking deep pressure through activities like yoga, squeezing into tight spaces or using weighted blankets. Interoceptive, this is our internal sensations. Some people will seek hunger or fullness, eating past comfort or under-eating to experience a sensation of hunger. You might not realise if you're doing this. 2. Temperature seeking. Preferring extreme temperatures such as very hot showers or baths or needing to feel cold by seeking out air-conditioned environments or needing several blankets to sleep. So what's acceptable? Regulating and predictable sensory input can sometimes be harmful. Stims that might cause harm to yourself or others should be avoided. I didn't want to say, it goes without saying, but self-harmful behaviours, hitting yourself and the like, would be better avoided, perhaps redirected with less harmful stims. It's like holding your breath. The impulse to breathe, or in my case, to stim, becomes too overwhelming to ignore. It's not like the tics of, say, Tourette's, which are sudden and involuntary. Stimming is more of a conscious choice to soothe or to satisfy a sensory need. Even if the urge is strong, I'm choosing to respond to my body's call for movement, for relief. Social masking. In public, this need to stim is a delicate dance of discretion, I would like to call it. I mask it, blend it into socially acceptable gestures, like maybe a stretch, or delay it until I'm in a safe space where my movements won't draw unwanted attention. This masking, the art of concealing one's autistic traits to fit into the neurotypical world, is utterly exhausting. It's like an inverse performance art. I'm spending so much energy on pretending to be normal that sometimes I forget what people are saying to me. I've been accused of not listening or zoning out on people, when that is the exact opposite of the truth. My mind is running at 1,000 miles per hour, ensuring my social performance is as good as it can be. No stims at all, and I'm coming across as normal, air quotes, and affable as possible. It's been said to me that we all stim, neurotypicals included, and that's kind of true, but that's not the full detail. Indeed, stimming isn't exclusive to autistic people. Neurotypicals often engage in repetitive, comforting behaviours too. The key difference is the frequency, purpose, and social perception of these behaviours. Neurotypicals might tap their feet, fiddle with pens, or bite their nails in moments of boredom or stress. These are actions that are usually transient and less noticeable. By contrast, autistic stimming can be way more apparent and also necessary for sensory regulation rather than just a way to pass some time or discharge a little nervous energy. For neurotypicals, these actions might not carry the same regulatory significance or need for sensory input as they do for those on the autism spectrum. Neurotypical stimming is often seen as maybe a minor quirk or maybe a bad habit that just could be easily dismissed. However, stimming in autistic people is often met with misunderstanding, judgment, or attempts to suppress these behaviours, particularly where they deviate significantly from societal norms. Quick pause. This seems like the right moment to address applied behaviour analysis, or ABA therapy, a topic that's highly controversial amongst the autism community. Originally developed as a method for treating autistic children, ABA therapy focuses on modifying behaviours, including reducing stimming that's deemed inappropriate or disruptive by neurotypical standards. Supporters of ABA, such as the much maligned organisation Autism Speaks, claim that it helps develop essential life skills and can improve the ability of autistic people to function in various settings. However, ABA focuses on making autistic people appear normal than supporting an autistic person's needs. The suppression of stimming through ABA can deny autistic people a crucial tool for self-regulation and sensory management, and it will lead to increased stress, anxiety, and a feeling of being misunderstood or not accepted for being who they are. Suppressing stimming isn't just about conforming to societal norms, it's about how much suppression can impact on an individual's well-being. When we're forced to suppress our natural ways of regulating our senses, we're not just hiding a behaviour, we're stifling a part of our very identity. This can lead to increased stress and anxiety, detracting from our ability to engage fully and authentically with the world around us. Even without formal ABA programs, every autistic child will have encountered some degree of societal ABA, as I would call it, being bullied, chastised, or punished for flapping, rocking, spinning as children, for instance. This brings us to the importance of advocacy in autism communities. This is Autism Awareness Month, week. It was just Autism Awareness Day. The goal should be to foster environments where autistic people can thrive without feeling pressured to hide or change their natural behaviours. Remember, you are not alone in your journey. I've been there too, even a year ago, where I thought I was alone. Turns out, there's actually an amazing autistic community online you can find on this channel and others too. And this video has been brought to you by Julian. If this video has been helpful to you, please consider clicking here to watch my next video on autistic masking next.